Welcome back to another super exciting episode of Southern Sorcery. We're back at you with another deck tech breakdown from Tarkir Dragonstorm, where we, Southern Sorcery, have been chosen to be ambassadors for this amazing set. It's an amazing product because it's got dragons, it's got really cool mechanics, it's got super awesome artwork, it's got some really cool new artifacts. It's just loaded with really cool stuff. We are so thankful to be an ambassador for this, and as always, we just want to say thank you to everyone who has liked and commented and subscribed to all of our stuff, because we wouldn't be anywhere near being able to do this type of stuff without you. So thank you so much. Keep it up. Please like and subscribe. It's the easiest way to help us out. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, we thank you. As always, we're doing a giveaway for these deck techs, or for all these decks, I should say. There's 5 of them this time for Tarkir Dragonstorm. This is Abzan armor. This is all about big booties swinging in, so toughness. When I'm referring to booties, that means it's got a thick back. It can take a lot of damage, but normally creatures like this can attack. But in this deck, the whole theme is making those type of creatures attack. It's really fun, really cool. I dig this. I have to give kudos to Wizards. All these decks have been really great out of the box. Just mechanically, it's hard for me to make cuts and additions when everything is kind of put together as well as it is. So let's just dive in. And to enter the contest, all you need to do is just make a comment on this video, a thoughtful comment. It could be about the set, it could be about something maybe you would add or subtract from the deck, or just something in general. Just make sure it's a thoughtful comment, and that's all you got to do. We'll cover shipping, all that good stuff. So yeah, let's just dive in. Let's dive into the new cards. I'm excited to talk about the new cards. So first, let's talk about the 2 commanders. There are 2 different options you can go with. The face commander is one we'll start with. This is Felithar the Steadfast. I like the artwork on Felithar. He's riding a really cool, like, dragon-looking lizard. He is a legendary creature, Abzan colors, white, black, and green. And a 1 for a 0/5, it says each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, which is very key for what we're trying to do here. And then this is huge for what we've, kind of went with. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender. So those big booty Judies we talked about, those walls, they coming. Just imagine you're just walking around and all of a sudden a wall just appears and says bam, 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 bam. And that's how you go. A wall. Never saw it coming. And then he also has 3 and tap, sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its power. Really cool, because a lot of walls have 0 power and massive toughness. So the payoff there is pretty massive, where you can draw and there's no setback because the power is 0, so you don't have to discard anything. Alternatively, there's a spirit dragon you can run as the commander, or just run in the 99. This is Betor, Ancestor's Voice. Also Abzan. This is 2 white, black, and green for a legendary spirit dragon that is a 3/5. He would be more of a build, I think, for +1/+1 counters and life gain. So just keep that in mind as you're building this deck. It kind of shifts the theme a little bit. But he has flying and lifelink himself. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to 1 other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. And then return up to 1 target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you've lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, that's a pretty cool mechanic. I think it kind of shifts the gears on how you want to build this. Do you want to build this with combat in mind, with walls and defenders and creatures that have gigantic toughness? Or do you want to go the route of having +1/+1 counters, a little bit of graveyard shenanigans with returning stuff and drawing cards? It really just depends, I guess, on what your flavor is. But I like the fact that the 2 commanders are kind of different, and the fact that you could really kind of swap them and change the entire outline of what the deck is trying to do. With that being said, let's take a look at some of the new cards. There are 10 total new cards, counting the 2 commanders, and then there's 8 others here we want to talk about. One is Jaws of Defeat. This is a new enchantment. The artwork on this one is funny, because I think it's the lizard from the Abzan, what he's riding on. Felithar the Steadfast, I think that's his lizard. It looks like it. Maybe that's just a common creature on the land, but they definitely look alike. Anywho, it's an enchantment that says whenever a creature, it'd just be bad to be eaten by a lizard that big. Whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and its toughness. That is such a good enchantment for this deck. There's a lot of 0/13s, 0/16s, just when a creature enters for 4 mana, here's 16 damage, here's 13 damage, here's 10 damage. That's such a good enchantment for this build. Adding black to the mix with walls and creatures with defender is so awesome. This deck with the Felithar at the helm, I think rivals Arcades, which is another massive wall themed deck that people that run a lot. So I think after looking at this, having that access to black versus blue is pretty crazy. After that, we have another new card called Will of the Abzan. Go figure, it's in the Abzan deck. That's another black card that's 3 and a black. Sorcery, it says choose one. If you control a commander, you get to choose both instead. So they have different wills, again, like Jessica's will, Akroma's will, all the different things that they've had before with the commander, where you get to do both. And this one is any number of target opponents each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls and loses 3 life, and or return target creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield. So a lot of good utility there. This is a very creature heavy deck. It runs 36 out of the gate. Might be even on the low side. It runs, give me 1 second. It runs 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 36. I was right. Yeah, so 36 right out of the gate is pretty good. After that, we have Tip the Scales, which is another black sorcery card. So they went heavy with the theme of, like, we're going to add some black cards specific to, like, this toughness style theme, which I like. It needed it. It was there, but it wasn't, like, in a strong presence. Tip the Scales is 2 and a black for a sorcery that says sacrifice a creature. When you do, all creatures get -X until end turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. So that's a very new, like, style, you know, and a really cool way to wipe the board out with the wall. Following Tip the Scales, we have Reunion of the House. This is a really cool card. 5 and 2 white. This is a sorcery that says return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Reunion of the House. With walls, again, going back to that, generally they have no power. They're usually 0 or 1, something pretty low, and then massive toughness. So with this card, you really should get a ton of benefit from it. And spoiler alert, it's kind of what we themed with here. I wanted to add more walls to the deck. It's already got a ton, don't get me wrong, but like the 0 walls that have 0, 5, 6, 7, 8, and up. After that, we have a new creature. This is a creature called Rampart Architect for 3 and a green. It's an Elephant Advisor, so very wise, very savvy. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature with Defender. So just more on theme with what you're already trying to do, which is nice. And then whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that card on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. So a little bit of ramp built in with like what your creatures are doing, and you're doing a lot of combat, so creatures are potentially going to die. So I think that fits the deck really well. After that, we've got a new dragon. New dragon alert! Canopy Gargantuan, love the name. 5 and 2 green, this creature has flying and ward 2. Ward is a mechanic basically that says if someone targets this creature, they have to pay like whatever the ward cost is. Sometimes they have to pay life, sometimes they have to pay, you know, through discarding cards, or just, you know, whatever it is. In this case, it's 2, which means they have to pay an additional 2 mana. So for example, if they Swords to Plowshare this creature, normally it costs 1 to target that creature. They would have to pay 3 because they would have to pay the ward cost. Otherwise, it gets countered. It's a pretty cool mechanic. A lot of people think it's busted, but, you know, it's here to stay. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of +1/+1 counters on each other creature you control equal to that creature's toughness, which is bonkers considering we have so many creatures that have a ton of toughness. So this card definitely fits the theme of the deck. Following that, we have Arbor Adherent. This is a dog druid, so if you got some dog and cat decks, there's a new dog. 3 and a green, this creature can tap to add 1 mana of any color, or it can tap to add X mana of any 1 color, where X is the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. Just a huge mana. I don't even call this a mana. This is like a mana genius, like, because this thing can produce a ton of mana depending on what creatures you have on the battlefield. It's also a 2/4 himself. So a lot of creatures, the theme of this deck is definitely the toughness is higher than the power. And then our last card is another new dragon alert, Protector of the Wastes. This is a mono white dragon for 4 and 2 white with flying. When this creature enters or becomes monstrous, we'll talk about that mechanic in a second, you exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments controlled by different players. So a little bit of like removal, which is pretty fun. And then it has 4 and a white for a mechanic called Monstrosity 3. If this creature isn't monstrous, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes monstrous. So that's how you would trigger the monster effect for this creature. So it gets big. Go figure, dragons that get big, absolutely bombs. So I think they did a good job. Like, those are the new cards, and every one of those new cards fits the theme, and really kind of fits the theme no matter which commander you are using with it. So, I mean, definitely, I think the tall and skinny of this deck is we are trying to beat your face with a ton of creatures that are deceptively powerful, because we're going to give them a way to attack one way or another, and all of a sudden you've just got a board with a lot of defense that turns into a lot of offense very fast. Speaking of which, let's pivot and talk about some of the cuts and the additions that we made. I'll talk about what we cut, and then I'll just pivot to like why maybe, and then what we added as well. So for the cuts on this one, it's a shorter one. I only cut 7 cards and added 7 new and set it. Added 7 cards, so let's talk about that real fast. First off, we cut Shalai, Voice of Plenty. You know, I cut this card just because, you know, it just, to me, it didn't fit the theme of what I was trying to do in the build. It is an angel that gives you hexproof. Your planeswalkers you control, you yourself and your creatures, and then you can pay to put +1/+1 counters on things. If I was running the dragon as the commander, I think this fits better, but I'm not. I went with the defender route more, so I cut Shalai to add Teo, the shield mage. So Teo is a planeswalker. If you know me, I generally am hit or miss with planeswalkers depending on how they interact with the deck. This was a no-brainer, I think. Along the same lines of Shalai, it's an easy swap because he gives you hexproof, you as a player, so you get that aspect of it. Then he comes in with 5 loyalty counters, which is his life total, and you can -2 him to take from his life total to create a 0/3 white wall creature token with defender. So it's a way to make more walls and still give yourself hexproof to prevent things from happening to you yourself. I think that's pretty cool. I think it made a pretty good swap just based on the life gain versus putting +1/+1 counters, on the cards versus making walls. That's why I added Teo. After that, I did get rid of Shadrick's Silverquill. Again, I think if I was running the other commander where +1/+1 counters were really the theme, I would definitely relieve Shadrick's. Instead, I got rid of him to add one of the MVPs of the deck, and that is a black wall called Tree of Perdition. I laugh just because of how absolutely bonkers this tree is. I laugh because it is absolutely insane. This is 3 and a black for a creature that is 0/13 with Defender, and it says tap, exchange target opponent's life total with this creature's toughness. So if you get this out and it stays around, gets rid of the summoning sickness, you can tap it to put someone at 13 life immediately, which is just bonkers. And it's a defender, and it's a 0/13. It checks literally every box that we're looking for this deck, and so I think that was just a no-brainer. After that, I got rid of Indulging Patrician. Again, if I was going the life gain with the counter side strategy, she would probably hang around. However, I got rid of her to put in Wall of 1,000 Cuts. The artwork on this card is just funny because it's literally a bunch of swords in the air. Like, yeah, you're gonna get cut up. But this wall flies, which is nice. It does have power. Interesting enough, that's because it's got a really cool built-in mechanic. For 3 and 2 white, it's a defender with flying. It's a 3/5, and it has an ability that you can pay 1 white into that says Wall of 1,000 Cuts can attack this turn as though it didn't have defender. It's really cool because if we can't keep our commander on the field, we would need ways to alternatively attack, right? Because most of our creatures will have defender. Defender is just a mechanic that says this creature can't attack. So we definitely want ways around that. There are some other ways in the deck that they kind of like reiterated that ability, but we definitely want to have, creatures that can do that as well. So I think having that built-in ability made it more of a play than the Indulging Patrician to gain life and basically do the +1/+1 counter effect. Following that, we cut a Carven Cryptid. This is basically a draw spell. It's for me, it was just kind of spent 3 mana to, when ETBs draw a card. It's not bad if we had more flicker effects. It's good to have those out so you can kind of like have their ETB effect go off over and over to draw more cards. But instead, I decided to add Stalwart Shield Bearers. The reason being is since we're going to be attacking to essentially win the game, we want this type of creature to Lord effect. So it says other creatures you control defender get +0/+2. So effectively making them bigger. Once our commander's out, we can make them attack. That's going to basically be able to do more damage. So having that +0/+2 ability, I thought was pretty key versus drawing a single card. After that, I did cut 3 lands. The deck came with 38. I'm going to run 35. We've got mana dorks. We have access to green, so I'm not terribly worried. A lot of our walls are very cheap, so 35 to me is not terrible. I cut the 3 temples, a Temple of Malady, a Temple of Plenty, and Temple of Silence, just because they come into play tapped. I'm not a big fan of the tap lands, even though they do get to... I would rather have something else. I didn't replace them with lands. I just replaced them with more stuff that was more thematic for the deck. For Malady, I cut and added Dusk Dawn, which is a double-sided card. This is just made for this type of deck. It's a sorcery. If you play the Dust side, which you do have to play it first, 2 and 2 white for a sorcery that says destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. We have so many creatures in the deck that are 0s or 1s that low to the ground, so it's going to be a one-sided board wipe. And then let's say we do get hit with a board wipe of our own. We can then play it from the Dawn side. It has an ability called Aftermath. Basically, it says, cast this spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. So that's why you play, Dust side first or find a way to get in the graveyard. But return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So let's just go get all of our walls, all of our defenders back since they're low to the ground with low power, and put them back in our hand. Just too much of a utility card. After that, for Temple of Plenty, I put in Wall of Blood. Bum, 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 bum. Sounds so cool. Again, this is another mono black wall. Again, it's just fun to like utilize those because like Precon, Arcades, neither one have access to black. So your more popular wall decks out there, they just haven't run black historically. So it's cool to kind of see this in effect now and have that access to that color, which you haven't before. But for Tuna Black, this is a sneaky good card in this deck. It has Defender, has the old, just basically like walls can't attack. A text on it's from Mirrodin, but it says pay 1 life, Wall of Blood gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You can use your life as a resource. If someone like lets this go through, you could kill them if you have more life than them. You can just feed a bunch of life into this to give it +1/+1 until it's enough to kill somebody. It's a sneaky card that, you know, sometimes people just like don't pay any mind to until all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like I can't block this, or you know, something of the line. It's, you know, it's got trample now, abilities giving it trample. So many little cool lines, so that's why I added Wall of Blood. And then lastly, I did want to add like a definitive win con for this deck since we are attacking. Added one of my favorite ways to win the game. Took out Temple of Silence, and that was to add an instant spell, which I think is just an absolute bomb. You've probably played it against it, you know, a lot if you've played Commander, and that's a Chroma's Will. For 3 and a white, this is an instant. It says this is another of the Will cards, W-I-L-L, where if you control your commander, you get to do multiple things. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. It's either creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until turn. Crazy. And then alternatively, creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. So this can be played as a protection spell. It can be played as like a game-ending spell. Honestly, it fits both commanders because you're giving everything lifelink. That fits right into the theme of gaining life with your alternative commander, then adding +1/+1 counters and so forth. So I thought it was just too good of an ad, you know, not to throw in there. So that's it. That's, you know, like I said, I didn't tweak too much because it's just really good right out of the box. This is a really good deck that I would even like say, like with the face commander, if you have someone that's new to the game, you wanted to introduce them to the game of Magic, this would be a fun way to get them introduced to like a 3-color deck, which sometimes is a little more difficult because there are 3 different colors you're trying to focus on. But this one's really just trying to play walls and attack, or do +1/+1 counters or life gain. So a lot of like very like streamlined avenues to take to really play the game and learn it, and then just swing, like teach them how to do combat and stuff like that. So plus it's fun because they get to play with walls, and not many people get to do that. You know, it's rare to get smashed by a wall over and over again until you win. So you can brag to people that, hey, I beat everybody with a wall. Haha. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Again, we're giving this deck away, so please enter, like, subscribe, make a comment. We look forward to doing these giveaways. Also, we just hit 4,000 subscribers, so let's go. We're only 1,000 away now from our year goal of 5K, which is just, you know, it's still March. It's crazy, man. We really appreciate you guys. It's been such a humbling experience just doing this and talking about the game we love, and you know, giving back to the community and stuff. So again, we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Check out our link tree. We got Patreon tiers open right now for box breaks, deck techs, giveaways that are, you know, exclusive to just the patrons, you know, different stuff like that. So hit us up on the Discord. We got a Discord channel where we do like questions of the day, different things like that. So if you're into Magic and you want to find us on the social platforms, we're pretty much everywhere. So give us a like, follow all that stuff, talk to us. We love to talk to everybody about Magic. We, you know, talked about it every single day. We love this game. So again, we appreciate it so much. We're super stoked to be ambassadors for this amazing product, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Until then, have a great day. See ya. Bye bye.